guys. So what I wanted to do is address one of the questions that came out after I did my last, well, not my last one, but the live video that I did last night when I was doing a social with the husky named Iceland. So I had a few people comment underneath that they would like to know what type of touch I was using and when I was using the touch and why I was using the touch at specific times throughout that social, which is a really good question. And I realize it's not something that is clear to a lot of people when I'm doing it, because for the most part my rule is pretty much to stay silent and dog-like when I'm doing socials. So I don't want to create any excitement with my voice that's unnecessary. So in other words, it would be hard for me to narrate exactly what I'm doing during a social if I want the social to turn out perfectly. I usually zip it. I stay, as I said, dog-like, and I focus my energy and my attention and everything on the dogs and what they're doing. I don't want to be distracted by anything, even a narration of a video. So I thought it would be a good idea to address those concerns and comments so that you guys can kind of keep an eye out. Sorry, I keep getting phone calls in the middle of the video. And actually it will be a good idea for you guys to be able to look for the type of things that I'm doing. So if I explain to you what I'm doing, and then you can sort of pick them out yourself. And of course you can also comment afterwards of what it is that you thought I was doing, and I can tell you whether you were spot on or not. So one of the things that I'm doing when I first walk out the door, okay, is and this is something that's pretty much universally done by me. When I go out the door, here is my rule, is that I want to create some space for the dog. So I don't want, everyone's going to come in by nature and zoom in and basically smell the new dog, right? That's a given. But I don't want the space to be so tight, especially because when they come out on my porch, which is a tight area. In other words, I'm not going through a door which opens up into a huge yard. The yard, I have to go a few feet away in order to get to the yard. So I'm asking my dogs to back up, and sometimes I will just say get back, which is pretty easy, or I'll use a little bit of sound, or I'll use some spatial pressure, or in many cases, I think what I did last night is I'll touch too. If they're just really, really on it, then I'll just touch. So then once I get the dog out, then what I'm looking for from the perspective of what the dog is doing that I'm actually bringing out is I'm waiting to see if there's any kind of stiffness. That's the primary thing. As long as the dog stays fluid, we're probably going to be okay. So in Iceland's case last night, she stayed, her tail was wagging, but that doesn't always mean the dog's friendly or not going to attack. But in this case, her face was really soft. So that's what I was looking at primarily. Hackles were up, tail was definitely up, but it was a new experience for her. I don't believe this dog is aggressive at all. I don't even think she's reactive. I think she's nervous around being around this many dogs at one time. So by bringing her out, creating some space out of respect for her so she can come out and stay fluid, then what I'm looking for is the slightest little stiffness. If you notice, if you go back to that video, you can see sometimes when she stays still for too long, especially when they're coming up to her face, like my pup Lucy would come up, or Bjorn, my pitty, would come up and into her face. So at that point I'm watching if there's a little bit too much stiffness or a little bit too much of this, right, I'm going to touch. And then you notice that she'll just go, oh, kind of like, oh, that was nothing. It's not what you think, right? She's not really saying that, but the point is that I'm snapping her out of that state of mind and letting her go back into becoming fluid again. Now, if the other dogs come up and get too close and I'm noticing that it's making her a little bit nervous, then I'll use spatial pressure, which is of course a form of body language, to get my own dogs back again. And sometimes I'll use touch. All of this happens in a very organic way for me because I've been doing it for so long, but I realize that not everybody can figure out exactly why I do what I do when I do it. But just keep that word in mind, fluid. You want to stay fluid from the time you go in. I don't know if you picked up on the fact that I left the door open into my office where I brought her crate was in my office. I brought her out into that social setting, and in some cases I have the time or the opportunity to close the door behind me. In this case, because she put the brakes on and she was a little bit by the whole idea, then I just decided to leave the door open because it was more important for me to stay fluid and keep moving forward. As long as you've got dogs moving forward in a migratory fashion, even if it's from their crate to through a door into a yard, you're probably going to be okay. Someone asked me what I would do if one of the dogs got more reactive than they should. Well, I would address it, but obviously my pack is extremely balanced. They've been working for me for a long time, and the new ones that are here, and even the ones that are my client dogs, my rescue dogs, and my pup Luce, they get inundated by balanced energy all day long, so they're really good. I wouldn't take a risk of bringing a dog in, especially without a muzzle on, and especially because I work alone primarily. I'm lucky enough to have Nathan here for a couple of weeks, which is awesome, for backup in case anything were to happen that I needed backup with. But I normally don't have that, and so I manage things a little bit differently. But pretty much this, I would probably do the same thing exactly with Iceland, because I can just see that she's not reactive. She's just nervous about being here in this with this many dogs. Now, the reason that this works so well, and why sometimes I will pick this way as opposed to taking a dog into a pack first in order to integrate them into a pack or see what they're like socially, is because they go into a little bit of shock when they're inundated with that many dogs. And you have to think about this. It's not really normal for a dog in their natural world to walk through a threshold and all of a sudden have this multitude of dogs coming towards them, right? Even balanced dogs, it's not really natural. So they go into a little bit of shock, which is actually a good thing, because you can actually see them go in and then kind of shake it off, right? They shake it off, and all of a sudden it's just the fastest way to get it done. All right, so I'm going to probably do another social tonight with a different dog, and I'll post it tonight if I do it, or otherwise I'll do it tomorrow. But I just want you guys to have those sort of tools, so that when you're watching the next video, or you go back to watch another one of me doing socials, you'll be able to find, say to yourself, ah, I know what she's doing right there. She's staying fluid. Or I know what she's doing right there. She's making space. She's snapping a dog out of a state of mind. Right? Okay? Got it. All right, guys. Talk to you later.